Hello, my name is Shauna, and today I will be presenting about Mailuu-Suu, a small town in Kyrgyzstan that has been labeled one of the most polluted places on Earth. The objective and purpose of this presentation is to 1. Discuss the events leading up to the current environmental disaster of Mailuu-Suu, 2. Identify some of the consequences of unregulated, neglected uranium mining sites. This will include health and economic consequences. And lastly, 3, I'll discuss how climate change is increasing the danger. The contents of this presentation will include a background of Mailuu-Suu's history and Soviet Union uranium drilling, a timeline of uranium mining, production, and contamination, as well as its associated environmental, health, and economic effects. This will be followed by a summary at the end, along with graphs, tables, and photos. The town of Mailuu-Suu is located in the Fergana Valley. This valley is noted as one of the most important corners of the world due to its prime location on many trade routes between countries. The current population of Mailuu-Suu is about 24,000. Most of its residents rely on agricultural production and grow cotton, rice, grains, fruit, and vegetables. This area is also known for its rich mineral deposits, and it's been home to many mining and processing industries. In 1946, an industrial-scale uranium mine began in the valley near Mailuu-Suu during the Soviet era of Russia. The territory of the Fergana Valley became one of the main mineral resource bases for natural uranium for the USSR. Within 20 years, over 10,000 tons of uranium oxide was extracted from Mailuu-Suu. As a consequence of this, huge volumes of radioactive waste are now stored within waste deposits and tailing sites surrounding this town, which are situated directly in or near riverbeds and floodplains that flow into the densely populated areas of the Fergana Valley. After uranium mining ceases, tailings and waste rock dumps are left. Tailing sites are sites that hold leftover materials, while waste rock dumps store rock that was removed during mining that now contain elevated radioactive elements. Mailuu-Suu is home to 23 tailing sites and 13 waste rock dumps. Figure 1 shows the extent of the uranium tailing and mining in the whole Fergana Valley. Draw your eyes to Mailuu-Suu, which is on the right side of the map. Its entire boundary is at risk of soil, air, and water contamination due to these sites. Over 1.96 million cubic meters of radioactive mining waste surrounds Mailuu-Suu, which is putting their entire community and ecosystem at risk. Also note that the river that flows into the town, Mailuu-Suu River, is very important. This river is central to the entire region's irrigation system, which means contamination of this river is detrimental. To recap the timeline of uranium mining in Mailuu-Suu, look at figure 2 here on the slide. So beginning in 1946, Soviet-era uranium mining began in Mailuu-Suu and lasted until 1968. Over this time, over 10,000 tons of uranium ore was processed and resulted in 1.96 million cubic meters of waste being produced. Decades later, Mailuu-Suu begins documenting and feeling the effects of this mining. In 1993, heavy rainfall washed part of the tailing dumps into the Mailuu-Suu River, impacting water availability and soil and crop production. This was just the beginning of the environmental disaster that is now Mailuu-Suu. In 2005, 300,000 cubic meters of uranium waste fell into the river after an earthquake struck the region. A few years later, a landslide also threatened to dump waste into the river after the area experienced heavy rainfall. Most recently, in 2017, a landslide changed the course of the Mailuu-Suu River, nearly flooding 2 tailing dumps, spreading its radioactive waste throughout the entire town and valley. The environmental impact of this uranium drilling is very extensive. It has led to, and will continue to, contaminate the soil, water of the region. It also restricts land use and pollutes farmland in the town's agriculture. As climate change continues to cause more drastic weather changes, including heavier rainfall and more intense earthquakes, Mailuu-Suu is at very serious risk. A significant concern arises from the danger posed by growing intensity of earthquakes, landslides, and heavy rainfall. The destabilization of tailing sites and waste dump sites have catastrophic consequences. Uranium tailing sites located along riverbanks and mountain slopes consequently contaminated the surrounding areas, and with climate change, the risk is now increased. Research conducted by the Institute of Nuclear Physics in Uzbekistan found that radioactive contamination in the river doubled during the spring when compared to the summer, and this is simply due to the increase of rainfall, which flushed out uranium waste from the tailing pits and dumps. Now think about what climate change will only further exacerbate in this scenario. The water and soil in Mailuu-Suu is already very contaminated due to microelements from tailing sites flowing into the river and leaching into the ground. As seen in Figure 3, uranium composition in the water and soil is higher than the maximum permissible levels, indicating unsafe contamination and infiltration of uranium tailings. Other microelements such as aluminum, iron, are also reported at high concentrations in the soil, indicating serious environmental impacts and waste infiltration. Tailing and dump sites need to be properly cleaned up, either by securing the sites to prevent further leaching and contamination, or through the relocation of their waste. The effects of uranium drilling in Mailuu-Suu extends far beyond just the environment. The health of the residents have been threatened for decades due to the region's mining and the improper storage and disposal of radioactive waste. The health impacts can be measured by looking at the prevalence of birth defects in this town. Figure 4 shows the percent of birth defects each year from 2000 to 2016 in Mailuu-Suu. Birth defects are an indicator of environmental radioactive contamination and its entry route into humans. The incidence of birth defects in Mailuu-Suu was 3 times higher than the country's second largest city of Osh, and still remains 2 times higher than the country's average. Studies have correlated birth defects to the distance of the parent's residence from radioactive waste sites. This is most likely due to the mother consuming polluted water as a major factor causing these developmental issues in the fetuses. Figure 4 shows a decline in birth defects in the town, which is a promising finding and may speak to the national lead cleanup projects in the last decades, but more research is really necessary to determine how effective it has been. Furthermore, physicians have seen a higher rate of cancer in Mailuu-Suu. Cancer epidemiological research conducted in the town between 2006 and 2015 found that 197 people died from cancer and 235 new cases of cancer were diagnosed in Mailuu-Suu. According to the Ministry of Health of the Kyrgyzstan Republic, the cancer rate per 100,000 people was the highest in Mailuu-Suu until 2013. Lung, stomach, and breast cancer were found to be the most prevalent. Additional studies have also found that the cancer in digestive organs was 2 times higher among people who drink water from the river compared to those who did not. This speaks to how contaminated and unsafe the river is. Lastly, research also shows that the prevalence of cancer is much higher in women, with 92% of cancer patients in Mailuu-Suu being female. Further research is needed to identify exposure risks, whether it be the highest in water, soil, food, or air in the town, but this is very telling of the detrimental effects of the uranium mining that continues to have on the Mailuu-Suu residents. As a result of uranium mining, the economy of Mailuu-Suu is impacted. As stated before, it's an agricultural town, so agricultural production has slowed due to soil and water contamination. This impacts the daily livelihood of its residents. However, residents are now financially burdened with increased healthcare costs to treat the cancer that they develop due to this contamination and radioactive exposure. Collectively, over the years, residents of Mailuu-Suu have spent an estimate of over $1 million for medical treatments. Further international support is needed to remedy these environmental disasters. An estimated $32 million is needed to clean up the radioactive waste in Mailuu-Suu. It's estimated to take a minimum of 6 years to close shafts, attics, and sinkholes, as well as cover and relocate tailing and waste dump sites, and construct diversion channels to protect the river from further contamination. This is an enormous project that requires national and international attention and support. In summary, the effects of uranium mining in Mailuu-Suu has been and continue to be felt by its residents. They have been burdened for decades of pain due to improper disposal of uranium and radioactive waste. The data alone regarding birth defects and cancer rates in the town speaks to the apparent dangers of Mailuu-Suu's tailing sites and waste dumps and how it has already leached into the water and soil of the community. As noted earlier, these consequences will only increase as climate change continues to grow. Heavier rainfall and intensified earthquakes will only cause more flooding of tailing sites and dumps and lead to more mud/landslides that will carry the waste into the valley, spreading the contamination even further. In order to remedy and clean up this environmental disaster, national and international aid is needed, not only in monetary support, but also humanitarian aid to treat the health of the residents. Tailing sites and dumps need to be relocated to areas that are not densely populated and not at high risk of flooding. That concludes the end of my presentation. Here are my references. Thank you so much.